Hello everyone, welcome to my mechanical and steam age tips videos. Boy do I have a lot to show you here. So the reason I am combining the mechanical and steam age is because they kind of go hand in hand. You're going to work through them at the same time. They're both ultra low voltage, so it's before electricity basically. First off, let's get into a little bit of a create tutorial. So my recommendation early on is just to use water wheels. The more water flowing past them doesn't actually increase their speed, so just have one core block on each one. You could either get rid of some of these like this, and it'll still work just the same. Now I have these going into this rotational speed controller. I would highly recommend you try to make this as early as possible. It's pretty simple to make. It's just a little piece of brass deployed onto a log and a precision mechanism, which you can use just a single deployer for. And it's just a couple of cog wheels and then an iron nugget. So not that expensive to make. It's a little tedious, but it's going to save you a lot in the long run. Because if you hook it into your power source by placing it down and then putting a cogwheel on top, you can control the speed of the output just by the simple right click. You can slow it down all the way to 1, and you can see this is extremely slow. You can go all the way up to 256 if you want. This doesn't have quite enough stress to power 256, so I'm going to leave it at 30. Let's put it at 64 for now. So this controls your output speed of everything. It's extremely convenient. You don't have to have a bunch of ugly cogs everywhere for it. Next, let's talk about these create machines. The rolling mill is invaluable. So this is a machine you're actually not going to replace for a long time. What it does is it creates rods for you using ingots. And as you can see, it makes 2 at a time per ingot, which is a great ratio compared to your file, or even the cutter is the same. It makes 2 at a time, and even at 64 speed, it's super quick. So this is a very good machine early on. Next, let's take a look at the mechanical press and the deployer. So the mechanical press, very useful machine. You pop that on there, it's going to turn it into a plate. Now, this machine you are going to want to replace pretty early on because it has a 1 in 5 chance of just destroying the copper ingot that you put on there. So about 20% of the ingots that you put on here to turn into plates are gonna just disappear. And sometimes you'll get real unlucky and like a few in a row will go away, and that'll get pretty frustrating really quickly, especially when you're using red steel, blue steel, stuff that takes a long time to make. The deployer here. Now, you really only need to make one of these. You don't need an automation line with a bunch of these in this mod pack. You can do that, of course, but if you just place one of these down, that's gonna do it. You can replace what it's holding just by a simple right click and then cycle through things like that, and that's a really easy way to just make whatever you want. Specifically, you're gonna use this to make some LV circuits. Now for making resin efficiently, I really like the oven. You can make an insulated bottom oven, an oven and couple oven chimneys. I think you really only need one and then it'll work. Pop the vat on top. Now to actually make the resin in this, you put latex in it, pop a little bit of sulfur. You can actually do 10 at a time sulfur, and then you're gonna light your oven. This will slowly heat up. It works pretty fast once it's hot, but you really make sure you shift right click and close it or it will not work. You're just gonna be sitting there waiting forever. Many of us have made this mistake and have just been sitting here waiting. Okay, now let's talk about your first multi-block. The coke oven is going to be your source of power early game. Putting any sort of planks in here is going to give you the creosote treated wood planks, which you're going to need in order to make many of these create machines. So let's automate it a little bit. Your output hatch fills up pretty quickly with creosote, so if you just put a wooden fluid pipe there, you can have it pump into a drum. Drums are extremely useful. We'll go into a little bit of how they work. Drums cannot input through the bottom, because if you right click them with a screwdriver, it will automatically drain out through the bottom, which is really useful for pumping into your future machines. Drums also hold their contents once you pick them up and can be used to put liquids into machines and out of machines just by clicking, similar to how you can with a bucket. That won't be until a little later though, but still very useful. Now, hooking up this coke oven into a bronze drum, having our creosote, having a big old buffer here. You can have as many drums as you want, of course, but we just have one for an example. They can all pump out so long as you right-click it with a screwdriver, and then I would have them pumping into your high-pressure liquid steam boilers. Now, creosote is really dense in terms of the energy you're going to get out of it, so this one coke oven is going to be able to support a decent number of liquid boilers, especially if you have some buffers and they're not running constantly. As you can see, just one, like 100 millibuckets, I think, lasts 180 seconds in here. So it's pretty nice. If you need more creosote, coke ovens are pretty easy to make. Now let's talk about how to get water into these machines so they actually start producing steam, right? We're going to go back over to create here. And if you have a mechanical pump hooked up to an infinite water source, I recommend a 2x2. you're gonna get as much water as you want out of this. So if you see here, I can crank that up and get infinite water. Awesome for steam power, right? Because it needs a lot of water. You can also do this once you hit electricity with lava. There is a little feature where the hose pulley pumped into just a single block of lava, you don't need the glass, it's just to show it, will give you infinite lava, similar to an infinite water source. So that'll be very useful later on as well. I just wanted to show you can of course have this set up vertically as well, and these trap doors that I'm using, I would recommend if you like glass. They're really easy to make in terms of glass blocks, and they can be picked up instantly. The glass panes, you just combine them with any trapdoor and you get a framed glass trapdoor. And the wrench here, you don't need to make the create wrench in this. You can use the copper wrench for anything and it works just fine on the create machines as well. You shift right click, you can just pick it up and it goes straight into your inventory. It's really useful. Of course, you can right click it to rotate it if you want as well. But the main benefit of these is being able to pick them up straight into your inventory with a shift right click and not have to worry about that. Also, glass panes are really efficient to make in terms of glass blocks. So if you have a problem like this, you can see the arrow is pointing up, water's down there, but it's not pumping out, right? You just flip it. Now that this is all set up, it is pumping water out and going into our high pressure liquid steam boiler. I did turn it off and replace them because if you try to pump water into a hot boiler that doesn't already have water in it, it will explode. So be careful about that. You're also going to need to use bronze pipes to pump steam because the steam will just burn through normal wooden fluid pipes. Now let's take a look at the machines here. The reason I have machines set up like this is so I can use chutes and have chests on the top and bottom, so everything is automated in terms of the inputs I can put in up here. They'll go into the machine and automatically output out the bottom using these chutes. That was an explosion? I have no idea what that explosion was. It must have been a creeper. Anyway, I also have little stairs here because they're nice to be able to access your chest. These are all frame chests, so you can make them look like whatever you want. Also, if you're wondering how to make the chutes look like this, because it looks pretty cool, just right click it with a wrench. Then you can see the inputs and the outputs and they'll stack up. See, if I put just a bunch of stuff in here, you can actually see it right there. I would recommend, because you can't really rotate these, I'd recommend placing it along the west or east so you can actually see them and not the side-on profile of them. Now in terms of high pressure machines, we really want to make our steam forge hammer as soon as possible. This gives us the best ratio of making copper plates that we can get to so far. Steam macerator is also going to be useful. The extractor is going to be useful for more rubber. The compressor, of course, is going to be useful, as is the furnace. The alloy smelter is going to be useful a little later on or earlier if you want to make alloys differently. It's not any more efficient or anything than making it your old-fashioned way, but it is useful. And then the rock crusher, you don't really need this right now, but it is a form of infinite cobble of any variety you'd like. Now I have a few final tips for you here. If you drink milk instead of water, so if you have access to any kind of milk, and you just drink that instead of water, it is going to fill your dairy pretty quickly, and then you don't have to even worry about it at all in your food. So you'll have a lot more max health for TFG. If you shift right-click a pipe, you can actually make it flow a certain direction. So you can avoid backflow, which is really nice. Because say I have water going into these tanks, if this water supply were to ever be cut off, oh, what happened to my pipe here? Yeah, that's what happened, the explosion. Okay, so what happened was the water supply wasn't enough for this. It was using more water. So the steam actually went back into the wooden fluid pipe and exploded this fluid pipe. To solve that issue, I can have one-way pipes going into them, so now there won't be any backflow. I can also do that with the inputs for the creosote, which is pretty useful as well. This will save you quite a lot of heartache actually, and I would recommend doing this, at least on your inputs. The outputs don't matter as much. Hopping into our Let's Play series server real quick, I want to show you how easy it is to make a create tree farm. It will use quite a lot of wrought iron, but if you watch my first tips video, you can see how to get their best ratio for wrought iron and make a lot of it really quickly, so that shouldn't be a problem. You just need a mechanical bearing, any sort of inventory. We use item vaults, but you can use chests as well. And then you'll need maybe 3 or 4 saws and then 3 or 4 deployers. Now this first saw actually does nothing, you don't need it, but it's just going to spin around with the mechanical bearing so long as you provide it with some mechanical power using a shaft. And on all of these deployers, you're going to want to put a filter for saplings. So it'll place saplings behind it and then it'll mine trees in front of it. Anything it mines will go into its inventory, and we have it outputting down here with some portable storage interfaces. You can use these coupled with smart chutes to have it output one at a time, but if you have one portable storage interface on the bottom of the machine and the one block away from it, you can output it straight into a chest, without any filters, and it should be just fine. This is a little more advanced. We have the filters separated for our own reasons, and as you can see, we have 20,000 wood, which is crazy. If you're not watching the Let's Play series, we're not quite into high voltage yet, so we have a long way to go, and I'd highly recommend joining us. It's a lot of fun. We stream sometimes too. Also, once you feel up to it, you can replace all of your water wheels with steam engines from Create. This is about the most efficient you can get with them, which are 2x2s, a little bit of lava underneath, and then of course our infinite water pumping into them. I use one steam engine to pump all of the infinite water into the entire machine and use a speed controller to make sure it's enough, right? Water wheels tend to eat up FPS and lag your client quite a bit, so I would get away from them as soon as you can in favor of our nice, slow, TPS-friendly steam engines. Also, that massive tree farm we have up there is running off of a single steam boiler. As you can see, they are extremely efficient in terms of how they produce so much energy with so little space. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the tips video, and if you have any more tips like you guys did last time, go ahead and put them in the comments. I'll be doing LV and electricity next time and trying my best to explain Gregtech electricity, which is more complicated than you would think. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, which is an insane number. Thank you guys so much for all the new support on Ko-fi as well. Link is in the description if you want to help me make more videos like these. Have a good one, everyone.